Okay, this is the story of when I was arrested in Rhode Island. So if you're here for how I lost my virginity, that's going to be a later episode. You'll have to wait for that. I was in a band in the 70s called the Pousette-Dart Band. We were based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we got some traction, and we got a deal with Capitol Records, and we were Capitol Records recording artists. And we made 4 albums with Capitol, and we went on 4 national tours, opening for big shots. And we were almost famous. There's another story about that because we knew Cameron Crowe, the guy who wrote and directed the movie Almost Famous. Well, I'll just tell you that too. And he got the idea for that movie from when he was a young reporter looking for a new angle. When he was he was like a wunderkind with Rolling Stone magazine, and he got this idea because everybody was writing articles about the big headliners, and he got this idea to tour to go on the road with opening acts, because every big show had opening acts that you had to sit through before you could see the people you really wanted to see. And he had this idea to go on the road with the opening act and see what life was for them. And he did that with a lot of opening acts, and one of them was us, the Pousette-Dart Band. He was with us for about a week. He was there he introduced each of us in our hotel rooms, and he was there in the dressing room. He was there in the wings when we played. He was there to see what life was like for us. So when that movie, when years and years later, when Almost Famous came out, and I saw that movie, a lot of it rang true, as you can imagine, and I felt like, because that band in that movie was basically a composite of all the bands that he saw, of which we were one, the Pousette-Dart Band. Like, we opened for Yes. We did big shows. We played We played like the biggest grossing show of 1978 or something at RFK Stadium outside of Philadelphia. It was us and Peter Frampton and I don't know who else. Yes, and Gary Wright. I don't know. It was some huge lineup, and there we were too. We opened up the show. But we didn't get a lot of help from Capitol in terms of they didn't do much for us. They didn't promote us. You needed help from the label. If they didn't push you to the radio stations, then you were shit out of luck. And we didn't have any friends at Capitol. The guy who signed us left Capitol, or was fired like a month after we were signed. So we had like a 4-album contract, something like that. I don't know. I was just a bass player, but we didn't have any friends there at Capitol, really. No one there cared about us, and so whatever notoriety, whatever popularity we enjoyed, we got from working. It was all word of mouth and just from touring, because we just worked all the time. All through the 70s, we just were always out there. And we had some hot spots around the country. But we didn't have much luck. We got no love from the label, and after we completed our contracts, our 4 albums, they dropped us. And we lost our deal. And so, in those days, if you didn't have a record deal, you were dead. I mean, it was this kind of this, it was the way of things that you had to have a record deal with a major label. And without it, you were a schmuck. And so we made this great demo tape, and we shopped it around. But like the market, the music business is run by fear and greed. And since we had been dropped by Capitol, everybody else ran away from us too. You know, because these people in the business, they don't know music. They just know money. That's all they know about. And so we couldn't get we couldn't give our shit away. And we had worked so hard. After 10 years, I mean, all of the 70s, the best years of my life. In 1980, we in bitterness and exhaustion and bewilderment, we broke up. We disbanded. Now, if I could go back, knowing now what I knew then, I remember our last show, we agreed that we were going to break up, and we had one more show to do, and it was at this college someplace north of Boston. I forget the name of the place. And it was I think we played in the gymnasium or something like that, but it was sold out. I mean, you think gymnasium, so what? No, but you couldn't move in the place. The whole floor, I mean, it was just packed. You know, I don't know, a couple thousand people. And we did our show, and we killed it. And then there we were in the dressing room, and we said, well, okay, well, it's been a great run. And we shook each other's hands, gave each other a hug, and we both went our separate ways, and that was it. That was it. You know, but I've been haunted by that moment. Because I see now that all we were looking at was what we didn't have. We were obsessed with losing the record deal. So all we could think about was what we didn't have. We didn't have the record deal, and we were not looking at and appreciating what we did have. We had a great band. We had a big, strong local following. We had good material. I mean, we were all in our late 20s. You know, I was 30. I was the old man of the group. I was 30. So we were between the ages of 28 and 30. So we were at the height of our powers, our physical powers, and we were tight. We'd been touring all the time, so it was a killer band. It was a killer little band we had. You know, everything was just spit polish. There was not a thing wrong with it, and we had this rabid following. And we weren't looking at that. We're just saying, well, we didn't have, you know, and we broke up. And we all went our separate ways. All right? And I went out and I toured with Natalie Cole, Jonathan Edwards and Natalie Cole, and the John Hall Band, which had kind of the same kind of a deal. And I toured for a couple of years with Joe Cocker. You know, I expanded my musical world. But then 10 years later, John Pousette-Dart called around and said, how about, do you want to get back together again and play around, just do a couple reunion dates and see how it goes, you know? See what happens. And I was local now. I'd gotten married, and I had kids, and I wasn't touring all over the world anymore, and I was just playing locally, and this would be kind of local, the Northeast. And I thought, yeah, okay, let's check it out. And we all thought that it would that especially in New England, that we would have a warm reception. And we did, the gigs we got. But the reception was warm from like 100 people, because we left. And our audience, all the people we were playing to, they all finished school, and they all got married, and they all started having kids, and they all dispersed. And so, if that's one of the things we lost. If we had held on, we would have held on to all those people that we had, and built on it. If we had stuck together, maybe. See, there's no way to know, really. But if we just hung on and waited, and maybe 2, 3, 4 years later picked up another deal with that much more rehearsing and playing and gigging and writing more songs and everything, who knows where it might have gone. That's the road not taken. So here we were trying to get something going, and now this was 10 years later. So I was like 40, 42 years old now, and here we were doing kind of low-level gigs, playing joints again. We weren't playing big venues anymore, and we got this 2-date tour, 2 days out. And the first night was going to be somewhere out in the middle of Cape Cod, somewhere out in Dennis, some weird, somewhere out in Cape Cod on the first night. And the second night was going to be at this place called the Ocean Mist in Matunic, Rhode Island, which is down on the coast. Now, I didn't like Cape Cod. I never did. I'm from California originally, and I grew up on the beach in the Pacific, as a surfer, and Cape Cod was, one thing I hated about it was that it's where everybody went. Summertime, it's time for everybody to go to Cape Cod, and I don't want to go where everybody goes, even if it's great. I don't want it, because everybody going there makes it not great, and so it was never the kind of place I would want to go. The only time I ever went to Cape Cod was because I had to. It was because I had to work there. And so the first gig was there. And you got to get in line. It's this road system that's been there since, I think it was built by the colonists. I think it's probably been there since 1683. And just this 2-lane road going in and out. You got to wait in line to go over this little bridge, and then you got to go down this winding thing, and it's humid, and they got mosquitoes, and it's hot, and there's no waves, and there's people, and we did the first gig, spent the night there, and the next day we had to drive to Matunic, and it's a 2-hour drive without traffic. But there's only 2 bridges off of Cape Cod, and we were going over one, and you got to get on like Route 6 or something like that, which is it's 2 lanes this way and 2 lanes that way. And summertime, you basically get in line. We were probably on the road by 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we sit in traffic. And you don't get we didn't get to the bridge till like 4 hours later, and then we got another hour and a half to get to Matunic. So we didn't get to. We probably were on the road by 10 o'clock. We didn't get to the ocean mist until about 4. So we've been on the road for like 6 hours, and then we get there at this place at 4 o'clock, and it's this place right on the beach. It's on stilts. The road's here, but then the deck is on stilts, and there's the water. And we got there, and there's all these motorcycles parked across the street. And I was like, oh boy. And we go in there, and there's flies going around in the middle of the room. Everything's open up. The ocean breeze is going through. There's a couple of, permanently brown women at the bar. One of them's got a couple of kids who are playing Space Invaders over there, and they keep coming back. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's pounding down beers and in her cut-off jeans, and this kid coming back and sticking his fist in her pocket to get some more quarters. And I just walked into the place and went, oh God. I'm already just tired and just fed up, and it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so we set up, we did a little sound check, then you got to sit around. We got some grease, some grease to eat, and then you wait. We had to wait until, I think we went on at, we had to play till 12. It was either from 10 to 12 or 9, probably 10 to 12. So we had to wait till 10 o'clock. Just wait. And the place filled up at night, and there was it was noisy. The place got packed. We finally went on, and they had to turn off the sound to the game, whatever it was, and everybody complained because the sound of the game got turned off. And there we were, the Pousette-Dart Band, and we were playing for all these people who did not give a flying fuck about us. And the energy was diffuse and scattered. Everybody was, and most of the people were still watching the screen. If you happened to synchronize people yelling because a goal was scored with the end of a song, we could pretend that we could say, hey, thank you, and so we played for 2 hours, and no one took any notice of us. And we got to our last song, hope that it's only amnesia, and we did that, and nobody cared, and we went right up, we finished, leaving us on the saying, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, whack, thank you, and we left the stage. That was it. No one noticed. No one clapped. Everybody was still yelling at each other. Everybody's drunk now. Okay? And the dressing room was right next to the stage. Right next to the stage, there's these 3 little steps, just like 2x6s, going down to the floor, and then right into the dressing room was right there. Okay? And it was like a walk-in closet kind of size. All right, we went in there, and Curtis and I guess JD was the drummer. They went back out into the room, and now Pousette-Dart and I were in the dressing room. Changing our clothes, and it wasn't hard to to step into the dressing room from the main room. All you had to do was walk around by the side of the stage and kind of step over the side of the steps and walk in, and which is what this young woman did. This girl, she walked in. She had a beer in her hand, and she walked in. She just walked in, and Pousette-Dart was changing his clothes, and I was in the corner with my back to the room, changing my clothes, and this girl walked in. Okay, and she went something along the lines of, why don't you play another? Oh, I should tell you. Meanwhile, I think Ed McGee and Bobby Damaris were doing the sound, and these guys are amazing. because they wanted to get out of there as much as we did. So at 12 o'clock when we were done, there's no encore because nobody wanted one. Those guys hit the stage and they got a routine and they're like a well-oiled machine and they strike that stage and I swear to God, it's a wonder to behold. They can strike a stage and get everything taken down, wrapped up, put into its boxes and everything tucked away in like 5 minutes. It's amazing, you know, and out and into all the road cases, out the door, into the van, clean off the stage in no time at all. It's amazing how fast. Watch them work like bees. Okay, so they're doing that. I mean, the stage is it's watching it in real time is almost like watching a time lapse. That's how fast these guys work. It's great to watch. And so that's happening. Okay, so this girl comes in, and you can see right past her, the guys are striking the stage. Everything's been taken apart. She goes, "Why don't you play another one? You know, just one more. You didn't even do one more song." And Pousette-Dart was very patiently saying, "Well, you know, we played till we were supposed to play till 12, and we did, and there wasn't any encore. So yeah, but I just got here. We just got here. You know, come on, and just play one more. What do you? Just play one more. You know." And Pousette-Dart very patiently tried to tell her again. He was very, very patient. Pousette-Dart, he said, "Well, see, understand, we were contracted to play from 9 to 10, and we played till 12, and there wasn't an encore, so, you know, and plus, you said, yes, but I think I just got here." You know, nothing was getting in. She wasn't hearing anything. I had my back to all this, and I had taken off my shirt, and I was about to put on my other shirt, and I snapped. I turned around, and I was shirtless now. And I was, you might find it hard to imagine now, but I was beautiful. I was imposing. I had a good body. And I was just under 6 feet tall. And her face is about level with my tits. And I walked up to her. I walked right up to her. And I said something like, you know, we drove all day to get to this fucking shithole, you know, to play for you stupid fucking drunks, and we did what we're supposed to do. So what? And we're fucking done, and we want to get out of here. So why don't you just get the fuck out of here? And then the weirdest thing happened. There was this beat. She took a breath. And she screamed. She stood there and screamed. This long, blood-curdling scream, like something in a horror movie. I was electrified by it. What the fuck? So my hands just kind of moved. I put my hands on her shoulders, and I spun her around so that now she was facing that way. I just turned her around quickly, and she was facing the doorway. And now I had my hands on her shoulders still, okay? And I did this. It was just a little. I didn't shove her like that. It was just a little, and in my mind, her top end would go forward, and then she would run to keep from falling, and would just kind of propel her to the door, and she would go out the door. I was just sending her out of the room. That's what I envisioned. That's what I envisioned. That's what I thought would happen. Well, that's not what happened. When I did that, she pitched. Maybe I gave it a little more oomph than I meant to. I mean, it was just, you know, It was just a little movement. But she pitched forward and slapped onto the floor, right in her face. And there's this sickening sound of flesh hitting the hard floor. And the bottle didn't break, but it made a big noise, you know. And her body slid so that her head was partially under the bottom step, that bottom 2 by 10, whatever it was, that step that goes up to the stage. Oh boy. Oh boy. And she got up and she looked at me and she said, "You're in trouble." And she walked out. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. And Pousette-Dart goes, "Man, what'd you do that for?" I was talking. I go, "I don't know why I did that, man." You know, it goes, he was saying, I was talking to her, everything was fine. You didn't have to do that. I know I didn't have to do that. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. You know. And he goes, "You know what, why don't you just stay in here? Just stay in here for a second." And he went out. So I was alone now in the dressing room. And I was sick with worry. Now, I was afraid that I was going to be arrested. You know? And I didn't want to be arrested. And the thing is, it wasn't, I didn't have this terror of being arrested. I just wanted to go home. I mean, I was so, you know, have you ever been so tired that you wanted to cry? You know, there's a reason that that when people are tortured, one of their go-to things, which takes the least amount of work, is sleep deprivation. You just keep them alive. I mean, not alive. You just, well, yeah, but you just keep them awake. That's all you got to do. Just keep him awake for 3 days, and he'll tell you about anything. You know? I mean, I read, and this is true, in World War I, they had this thing called, the Germans had this thing called, there's this general strategist called, his name was Schlieffen. It was called the Schlieffen Plan, see? And the idea was that they would do this kind of, it was the precursor to Blitzkrieg, lightning war, where they would sweep across Belgium like an hour hand going counterclockwise, and into France, and do it relentlessly, and so they didn't have a chance to rest, and that's what they did, and it bogged down in France, and that's where they dug in, and that's where you had the beginning of trench warfare. But up until then, the French were and the Belgians were fighting and retreating, but they couldn't rest because the Germans kept coming. They kept coming. So they couldn't rest, and the Germans had reinforcements coming up and replacing them, and so they just kept coming like this wave that kept coming, and the French were fighting and retreating, and they retreated. And they go, "Okay, I need to rest now. Finally, that is sleep." And they couldn't. They had to fight some more, and it got to the point where some men would lie down next to the road to sleep, and their buddies would go, you know, "Don't do that. If you're caught, they'll kill you." And they said, "I don't care. I don't care if they kill me. I just want to sleep." That's how important sleep gets. Well, I wasn't that far gone, but, you know, I wanted to go home and go to bed. I didn't want to go to some jail cell in Rhode Island. No, after every, oh God, So I waited in the dressing room, and nobody, Pousette-Dart didn't come back. And nothing was happening. I didn't know what was going on. And there was still a hubbub out in the room. I didn't know what was going on, so I stuck my head out, and the room was still busy, and the guys, Ed and Bobby, were just about done with the breaking down the stage. And I stepped out, and I was by the corner of the stage, and I was looking around for the girl, and then I saw her. And then I saw she was with some young man, and they both left the bar, and they were walking toward me, and the young man was walking in front. She was walking behind, and he had his eyes right on me, and he was coming right toward me. So I started putting together my apology. I could see he was upset, and I was putting together my apology because I wanted to apologize. I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't mean to knock her down. That's not what I meant to do. And I was sorry. I really was sorry. I didn't want to hurt anybody. And here he comes. And I didn't really see what was coming at me, which was kind of funny because I was a brown belt at the time in Taekwondo, and it's so I was sparring like 3 times a week, and I was very aggressive. Brown belts are very aggressive. When you get your black belt, you kind of relax, and you spar other black belts. It's almost like you're just it's like you're doing choreography together. You don't really, unless you're a really competitive dick. You just kind of you work out together. But then when you go up against a brown belt now you got to watch it, because the brown belts are really a brown belt wants to get in on a black belt. That's what he wants to do. So when I was a black belt, I had to be much more careful with brown belts than I was with black belts. With black belts, I could kind of relax. Professional courtesy. But if it was a brown belt, I had to be on my toes. Well, I was a brown belt now. I wasn't a black belt yet at this time on this particular night. So I was very aggressive. I was a very aggressive fighter. And so isn't that funny that I didn't really see what was coming at me because I was in such a misery of regret and worry that I didn't see what was plainly on this guy's face. So he walked right up